Good evening. Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Good day, good morning, wherever you're viewing us from around the world. Here we are again. This is day 114. God. I must get onto
ridiculous.
the YouTube channel and change the thumbnails because they're all the same at the moment, the last few. So I must sort that out. And note to self, do something about it. Right. Shall we start from the beginning? Vicky's here.
Yay! Good morning.
Good morning from Australia, says Vicky. That was at 8:30. She left that as soon as she could get in. Carol Colbert's here. Morning from Canberra.
Yeah.
Good evening from the UK, says Marianne. Hello,
Marianne. Hi, Marianne.
Pia's here. Hello from Finland. Hello. Aston's here. Hi all. Hello from South Africa. Dawn's here. Hi, warrior friends from Wales in the UK. Heather Swithenbank's here. Hi, everyone. Oh, I've seen that you're coming to Gawsworth, Heather. Well done. Well done. Get in there quick because they will sell out. So well done. One of the first. Brilliant. Silver Lining Stables. Hello, all. Becky Bragg's here. Evening, all. Angela Garberg's here. Bonsoir. Malin's here from Sweden.
Hi, Malin.
How are you? Hello, everyone, she says. Leah's here. Hello, everyone from New Zealand. I've just been doing our live trim session with Leah this morning, and she did a very good job, Gary. Yeah, it was very good.
Excellent.
She was with her little tiny pony called Zuki, and she did incredibly well. He's got lovely feet. So well done, you, Leah. Jeanette's here from North France. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Lisa Charles here. Hello.
Hiya.
Sarah Woodvine. Hello, everyone. Adele's here.
Hiya.
Hi, friends. Hello.
Hi, Adele.
Good to see you. Lynn's here. Hello from Maryland, USA. Hello, Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
Melanie's here. Hello from Pennsylvania, USA. Great news for honey. Can I share? Melanie. Can I share? I've been hoping that you would come on. So I don't know whether you saw my messages, but can I share? And we can have a little chat about that. I don't know what that is. Charlotte. Good evening from Devon. Good evening.
Hi, Charlotte.
Jenny Ackerstrom's here. Hi, all. Hi, all. Vanya's here. Hello, Vanya. Good evening, everyone. Macon's here. Good evening, Macon. Jill Truscott's here. Hello. Melanie says, absolutely. Well, now, shall we tell the story, Melanie? So, Melanie, okay, backtrack. When we started the Phoenix group 10 months ago, just over 10 months ago, we had an awful lot of people, of course, coming in with lots and lots of problems. Some of them very awful problems. And one of them was Melanie. Now, I don't know whether Melanie she can correct me here. I don't know whether she was with us from the very beginning, but certainly a couple of months in, Melanie turned up. Now, Melanie lives in Pennsylvania, USA, and Melanie was having some serious problems and had been having some continuing serious problems with her mare for some length of time. She'd been in shoes. She'd also been barefoot. And when we finally turned up virtually, it was, I'm going for it. It was, her mare was in a really bad way. Would spend most of her days in the barn, didn't really want to go out. Melanie was keeping her on her own because she couldn't move very well, and she was very worried about the reaction with the other horses and if it was going to harm her because she couldn't get out of the way. And life wasn't good. Life was sad and upsetting and worrying. So Melanie went through the challenges. That's number one. She went through the challenges and then had a consultation with me, and we began. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that we went through at the time. You may have seen some. Melanie's has in the past put some posts up, but so I'm going to share that with you in a moment. But the news is It was like Christmas for Melanie last night because she couldn't sleep. She said it was like Father Christmas was coming because, because her vet was coming to x-ray. I mean, now most people don't feel like that, do they, when a vet's coming to x-ray their horse? But Melanie did, because she's come such a long way with her mare. It's amazing. And she's done all of this herself. Granted, she had some one-to-one consultations with me, and also she was one of the owners that was on the program with our students, and she had a few sessions with Louise Yendell when just before Louise qualified. Louise is now qualified, and I sent some of that to Louise earlier just in case she can't make it to the live tonight. And through us doing this program, through us doing the challenges, through us doing the consultations, Melanie has taken her horse from a very, very, very precarious position, uncomfortable, crippled, in pain, high heels, too much foot altogether, P3 not in the right position, to today, where we've had new x-rays done. Now, we're not there yet. I have to say, we're not even quite there yet. We've still got some toe to grow. We've still got some toe to get onto the ground. Some of the toe, and the toe was allowed to do what it needed to do. Melanie was very, very cautious about what she was going to be taking at the front of the foot. And it was all about bringing those heels down and getting that foot balanced. And I'm sure Melanie will be the first to say it wasn't easy at the beginning, for all those reasons that are going to make it not very easy. One, your horse can't hold their feet up for very long because they're in pain. So and that's distressing to the owner as well. And also frustrating, not against the horse, but because the owner, because Melanie wasn't so au fait with the tools back then. I mean, I remember a few funny moments with Melanie using her rasp in funny ways.
It happens.
It happens, but
it might make us giggle a little bit, but we can help.
Exactly. And you see, this is why when we do workshops, we do them with cadaver hooves, because if you go and do a workshop all about hooves and you're asked to trim a live horse, that's really difficult, especially if you're new to it, which is why we do with cadaver feet. But Melanie couldn't do that. She had to do it with a live horse, her own horse. And so all of those things, emotional things, all of that was part and parcel of her journey. And also not just that, when you're taking an animal from a position of pathology on the pathology pathway, you have to put the brakes on that pathology pathway and reverse before you can find the healing pathway. That's not always that quick. You know, when you're reversing away from pathology, it can take time. And I remember back in the day, Melanie saying, when is it going to get better? When is it going to get better? And I just kept saying, hold on in there. Melanie says, it wasn't easy, but it's worth seeing her now. I couldn't have done it without you guys. I questioned myself a lot, but this group really made all the difference. It was amazing. You've done so well. She said she found us in December 2023. So that was last year when I started doing the It's Not Rocket Science lessons, probably, which I'm bringing back very soon. I was going to do one today, Gary, but I ran out of time. I've got one in my mind. And then she must have joined the Phoenix Way. So what I'm going to show you are snippets from her journey that hopefully will inspire you, I hope. So that's what we're going to look at today. And I've got it all on my whiteboard in Canva. So let's present arms. Here we go. Melanie and Honey. Oh, wait a minute. Before I share that with you, I'm going to not show you that bit because that's today. So we need to just zip all that down the bottom end. Otherwise, I'll be showing you all of that and you don't want to see that just yet. because that's some of the other stuff. Let me just zip that all the way down there. Right. Okay. So let's go in and start our journey. Now, I'll try and chat you through it, but I'm sure Melanie will add her own little bits to it as well as we go along. So, and we'd never met, by the way, at the beginning, obviously. So it was all a case of getting to know each other and getting to know what Melanie could do, and then moving on and keeping that support going that we did. And also about the diet and the management too. And I'm sure she'll share with you about that. Okay, so let's share Honey's story. So I'm not sure I've got a full picture of Honey, actually. I'm just having a quick look around here. I don't think I have. Honey is a black mare. Tell me about her breed, Melanie, because I'll bound to get it wrong. And this was way back at the beginning. This was her first trim. Now, if I show you what her heels were looking like, this is the X-ray that we were working from. This is the X-ray. And this is her right fore. And this was actually the worst of the two, her right fore. And you can see here where we were aiming to go. Now, this is way back in March. And we're going to look back at this again in a moment and where I've put that mark. This is way back in March. And you can see there's some there's some nail holes there because Melanie had her shot. And let's see if we can go back and zip over here. I hope I don't make you feel sick. Because it makes me feel sick. So again, it had been a journey. She was being shod. Here we go. She's got a little bit of mediolateral imbalances going on there. And if we look down, we can see down here that when we get to these images, we've got P3 not in a very particularly good position. You can see that big gap here at the back of the distal interphalangeal joint, which is it shouldn't be as wide as that. So we can see that the foot balance isn't great. But when you look at it, there's not an awful lot of separation up here, but there is some separation down here. And that hoof wall is all in one line, which is in line with the hoof pastern axis. So although P3 isn't monumentally rotated in any way, what we have is an unhappy hoof capsule, and that was the left. And then if we go to the, I think, where have we got the right? Oh, that's not the right one. It says left. It might not be left. It might be the right one. I don't know, because this one says left over here, but it's not quite the same. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the same thing's going on here. Can you see? That distal interphalangeal joint's not happy. The heels aren't particularly high, but she's in a shoe where they've taken some toe. They've then brought the base of this shoe here back under her. This is all about breakover. So not allowing her to have her own natural breakover, they brought her back. And then they brought this, here's a heel coming in, and then the shoe is set underneath. So you can see the reduction in surface area compared to her actual foot. Now, this is a very common thing that the world does constantly with horses, and it's rarely thought about. But reducing that horse's surface area is major. It's a major thing. So let's go in and have a little look. Now, that toe had been brought back a little bit, but I think you can already see, can't you, the difference in the surface area. That is huge for that horse. That's a big difference. And this is very common. You can also see under here that there are just starting to be some, you can just see where the nail holes are slightly proud. So again, this is a foot that is being manipulated. It's not to her own natural parameters. And in this foot, you can see there's a little bit more rotation. So if we look at this one, it's not quite the same as this one. So let's just go down. The shoes were removed, and these were her feet. So this is, I'll just move them around because that's the left one and that's the right one. So this is the left fore and this is the right fore. Look at the disparity between the two, first of all. Look at how we have, can you see that all right, Gary? Because I'm
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay, excellent. Look at the disparity between the two. Look how the palmar angle of the right foot is much steeper than the left, but the left is a little bit broken back, and it's got a little bit of a ski tip going on here, and it's lost a little bit of bone here at the front, and so has P3 on the right foot. You can see that there's been some damage underneath there. So neither feet are great. This one isn't particularly at a bad angle, although it's not right. If you look at the hoof capsule, the heels are too high. There's actually an awful lot of sole there. And above all, I hope you can see that she has got separation. So let's just go down to here. If we look here, let's just take it from the shoulder of the coronary groove, which is just there. And there is her hoof wall. Actually, it's a little bit more like that. And this is just a mess of confused material and tissue just here. So this is her hoof wall. Let's do it more like that. And here is a void, because there's a lot of confusion going on in this material. Normally you would see the void more up here, but this is a void which invites infection, where the hoof wall is starting to separate itself. And in here we've got the dermal and the epidermal laminae, and they're separating as well, which is why you see it wider at the bottom. And the difference is to do with where she was before. Now, every single time, what I mean by that is every single time this mare was trimmed, these heels were going up and down, up and down, up and down, because the hoof care professional wasn't keeping to a standard. So there were times when her heel was high and there were times when her heel was lower. And you can still see some of these marks in here, which would have been from the nail holes, I should suspect. And if we go over and we have a look at this one over here, we can also see that we have got some separation. There we go. Again, a similar thing to the other foot. This is very, very painful and very crippling. So this foot here is pretty much what this foot was at. But this foot was going up and down, and this foot was going up and down as well, but not as much. But you've got this very hyperpositive angle of P3. So this is a problem, because this is being the tip of P3 is being separated. Now, the world will tell you that the reason for this is because it's systemic issues, systemic laminitis, that is causing the laminae to separate and P3 to whistle through the capsule of its own accord. It's not what's happening. This is hoof care. This is a hoof care problem. Always was and always will be. So what needed to happen with this mare is she needed to start to be trimmed to her own natural parameters, and she needed to find her own foot. And the only person that was going to do that for her was Melanie, because we couldn't get there. And there was no one else now left to help her, because obviously the person that was doing her feet prior to this wasn't coming back, because she didn't want them to come back, because she wasn't getting anywhere. Just shout out if Melanie posts anything, Gary.
Yeah, sure.
So where were we? So we were all the way back up here, and that's that right four. And you can see here, this is some imagery of her. I think that's her left. No, that's her right. You can see she's in hoof boots down here. She's in some equine fusions. You can see the balance is all over the place. Can you see how high it is up here? And we're a little bit all over. And these are images as we go along, and we're trimming a little bit and we're trimming together. And she's showing me some side pictures, and you can see that she's got her hoof boot there. And you can see that this is not a very happy foot. It's an angry foot. We've got diverging rings, and we've got this high heel. So we're working our way through. When we get a foot like this, you can see all these little fronds of horn that are actually frog horn. And they're like that because this frog is overgrown and it's not being worn down naturally. And you've got this big hole, this big sulcus that's quite deep. And you've got these massively long bars, underrun heels, and just generally a problem. So we had to guide Melanie through trimming these feet. And these were the very early days. And this separation that you see there is the separation growing out from that, from P3 being in the wrong position. So I think down here, I think I can show you. Oh, I don't know where I put it. No, here we go. I think I can show you a video. It's just, actually, I'll probably just do it off this one because, oh, I don't know. Let's just play this video. Can you see this video, Gary?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, so let's just play it and you'll see. So this is her mare at in the very first early days before we really got into getting stuck into her trimming properly. Watch what happens in a relatively short period of time. I think it was within 2 or 3 trims, we got to this stage here. Watch this. Look at that. That's incredible, isn't it? Do you see? She basically loses half of her foot. But we still had separation there because you can't just rasp separation away. And so from then on, it was a process of making sure Melanie kept on track and kept her mare trimmed every 3 weeks. So these are Melanie's trims. You can see that coming down. You can see we're pointing to a spot there that they were worried about. You can see that there's a little bit of blood in here. That's old inflammation. But you can see that all the way back to here, this has not been connected. And gradually, and we kept the hoof wall in play, which was incredibly important. And then over time, let's just see where we are now. Sorry if it's making you feel a bit woozy. Just close your eyes. There we go. Second trim, where this is me showing her and saying, okay, your balance is off. Your balance is just off a little bit. This needs to be rebalanced. Let's see what I've got here. And then look at that. So this is me and her working together and me saying, okay, your balance. And this was very typical of this foot. It was really easy for the foot to go off balance. And then you see that we're trying to get it more into balance here. I hope you can see that. So this went on from March. And it wasn't the easiest thing to do. Now let's have a look at this. You can see how this left foot is very contracted. And then you can see the right foot is higher. The heels are higher. This horse was in trouble with her feet and in pain. So shall we go racing along to what we have today? This is her front feet. This is what they look like from the front. You can see the disparity between the two. And they're turning out, aren't they? So let's go down and have a look at what we now have today. And I'm going to have to pull it right out because they're here. So let's just move them up here and blow it up. That one needs to go over there. This is where we are today. So this is the difference in the feet today. So this was pre and post on both. You can see that the end of the foot is just, let's see if we can get a better shot. Let's have a look at this. You can see the end of the foot is just tipping up and starting to crack because she had some cracks in there and it's just starting to break off. But she kept it as long as she could before it started breaking. And by the time it started breaking off, we were well on our way to being well down the hoof. So it was very well protected. And if you look at this, you can see that lovely healing angle has grown itself all the way down, and you can see the heels, because the heels aren't kept in check by that toe on the ground. You can see how quickly they can grow and become underrun. And after a trim, here we go, here's the trim, you can see that those heels were able to be taken back. And you can see it on the pigment there. You can see that there's less of the marbled effect of the foot showing there than there is here. But nothing happens at the toe. We don't trim the toe. You have to let the toe do its own thing, because if you don't, then you're going to encourage all sorts of problems. And one of them is the fact that the heels don't stay in check, feedback issues. The toe doesn't grow quite as quickly as it should, in concert with the hind with the heels. So this is what her feet look like now, today. This is what they look like underneath. So this is pre-trim with all that bar. And she's been trimmed every 2 weeks, by the way. So this is her foot still exfoliating and exposing bar. You can see that. This foot is still healing. There's still quite a bit of healing to do. But now look at this attachment here. Look all the way down. Look at this. This is a lovely white line. Whereas before, she only had attached white line back here. This is well attached all the way until it gets to here, and then it's still got some to go. And meanwhile, this is the danger time for P3. But if we keep the heels back to where they need to be naturally, down to the hard sole plane, and Melanie's not guessing. Remember, Melanie's not a professional. She's not even one of our HMB pros. She's just an owner, just like everyone watching this now, or most people watching this now. And she, through her guidance and through doing the challenges first, through our guidance, she was able to get to this point and understand what she was doing. So here you can see she's keeping these heels in check. Her balance is these days is fantastic. If we go over to the other foot, you can see that. You can see how she's keeping all that in check. Now on this foot, which is the, I think this is with the left foot, you can see here pre-trim, there's all this bar material, and then there's this material here around at the sole. Now this is sole and bar that is now starting to exfoliate. That's going to release, but it's stuck. It's well stuck, and there's not an awful lot you can do about that. And this has been protecting this area underneath here, and you can just see some old red bruising coming through. That's not current. And all of this is going to come off, but Melanie's keeping these bars down. You can see where the bars finish, the true bar, where the white line of the bar finishes, and the rest of it is just old material that is exfoliating itself. Again, you can see how tight the connection is with this white line and how much more we've still got to go, but the mare is started to crack a bit of that off. Okay, shall we go and look at the x-rays, Gary?
Can't wait.
All right. Let's just blow these up. Everybody see it?
Yep, that looks good.
Okay, let's just analyze what we're looking at here. So these are the x-rays that she had in March, and you can see the disparity between the two. And remember that line that we put on. And now we're going to see what they look like now. So let's just fade between the two. And there's a couple of things I want you to look at. Let's just look at this foot first. This is the left foot. I want you to focus on this area here. I also want you to focus on the heels and just the capsule for the moment. Just focus on the capsule and watch what happens. Let's just put a depth in there. Let's put that depth in for a heel. Remember, this was the foot that it did have high heels, but it wasn't as bad as the other foot. We've got that in there. And we'll put this in here. This is far too much sole on this horse. And this, we have this separation. Separation as well. So let's just go to the outer hoof wall. And then let's do that again. Look at that. In fact, I don't even think that's actually where it needs to be. It should be longer than that because we're not quite on the outer of the outer hoof wall. Just on there. Let's bring that back to there. In fact, let's do it all the way up, shall we? Now, the bones are all pretty much aligned up. They're not perfect, but they're pretty much there. Now, if you lined the bottom of the foot up, it would look like P3 sunk. But that's not what you line up. You line the bones up because the coronary groove hasn't moved. It's still here. The coronary band still begins here. And you can see in this image, it's not very happy. So let's just do that again. Let's look at that again. Look at that. Look at the change. Now this mare is still, this is periopal, it's coming down over here. So the foot is behaving more normally now. And you can see this coronary groove and how we've still got a little bit of separation, but this is old. Look how tight this is coming in now. Look at the difference. Can you see that, Gary?
Yes.
Do you see? And this is trimming to the natural parameters. Now, this foot is still, P3 is still a little bit broken back here. And she's standing quite upright, still a little bit broken back. And it's partly to do with the way that she's been for quite some time. But it's also to do with the fact that there's still no toe wall properly on the ground, which is the counterbalance for these heels. That toe wall needs to get down on the ground. This last little bit of separation will finally grow itself out. Let's just do that one more time. The difference in those hoof capsules. Look at these heels. Look at the difference. Let's just take that and put that to here. Do that again. What a difference. Now, this isn't just going in and hacking the heels away. This is a measured trimming, finding this mare's natural hard sole plane without any help other than us online. She was doing this herself with guidance. Okay, so let's go and have a look. Let's go and take a look at this one. So that's in a more normal position there. And then you can see we start to go through the separation. This is very incredibly painful for the horse. Can you see that all right, Gary?
Yeah, that's looking good.
Okay. Let's get this to here. A few little other markers that we've got going on. Let's mark it from the back of that to the ground, pretty much there. Oh, let's just take this, put it under here. Now you can see that there's been some remodeling along here. And she's got a little bit of a ski tip. This one is just bring this down a little bit more. Canva isn't as precise as you'd like it to be. Sometimes you have to really blow it up to get it to where you need it to be. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's just look at the difference with this one. Look at that change. P3's come into a better position, and all of this has tightened up. You see it derotating? Can you see that, Gary?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that when you see that what we're doing is correcting the hoof and what's going on inside, and obviously we've been able to do this without X-rays, and I think that is a big thing.
Oh, we're not trimming to X-rays. That's right.
We're not trimming to X-rays. All we're doing is having X-rays to confirm. So people want proof, right? So thanks, Melanie.
And
thanks,
now
Melanie.
look, and
another
now
one
look,
to come along.
And now look at these two. If you just glanced at these two feet, let's just take all these lines away, and then you can see it without the lines. If you glanced at these 2 feet now, you'd be hard pushed to tell a difference between them. We haven't got toe on the ground. We've still got this separation that's growing out here. We've still got a few. These feet were in a lot of trouble. So we've still got some hoof rings that are quite deep that are growing out. This is old bit of toe that would naturally be chopped off and lopped off. But we don't want that to happen because we need to, it's breaking off as it is. Any sharp edges she can remove, but we're wanting that to get down to the ground. And all the while it isn't down to the ground, we are chasing these heels. But there's still just a little bit of hide on this one compared to this one, but you'd hardly tell the difference just quickly looking at them like that. Again, we're a little bit broken back on this one again, but without a toe wall on the ground, this is something that is likely to happen. It's also the position she's standing in on the block, which isn't a natural position because she knows she's standing on a block. So if this part of her bony column P2 and P1 were in a different angle, then that wouldn't look like that. Okay. But that is a tremendous success. This horse is now galloping around. She feels fantastic. She's got normal sole depth. She's being trimmed to her natural hard sole plane, which actually just has the angle of the palmar angle isn't great, isn't big, but it's just right for her. This is getting better and better connected as it's been growing down. Look at this. This connection is fantastic. Again, let's just go back and look at that. What a success. I think Melanie must be so chuffed. No special fancy gadgets. No special fancy gadgets. What did you say?
I think Honey's chuffed.
Oh my God, Honey is beside herself with joy. She's happy again.
But you can totally see, though, to the untrained or the uneducated eye, how that foot with that funny healing angle coming in and it deviates off, and how people lose their heads over it. You can really understand that. But you can understand that now because we're showing you and teaching you, whereas that was never available before.
No. And this was a great time to X-ray because we're not there yet, but we're I'd say 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah, sure.
And Melanie will get X-rays again at the end when we've got proper hoof capsule down and the foot hasn't stabilized yet. It's a lot better than it was, but it's not stabilized yet. Those heels are still going faster than the toe. Not that they're going fast, they're just growing at their rate, but the toe has slowed down. And until those two get together, you're going to have this chasing chasing those heels until that settles down. But it's a lot better than it was. And of course, now she's able to move, and now she's able to walk. She's doing a lot of that co-trimming herself now, which is, of course, what we exactly want to happen. But this is a process. And I think people think that during this process of healing, that because the hoof capsule looks odd and different and not shaped, that the horse is going to be still having problems. Not at all. The trajectory of getting better is fantastic. It just goes up. They don't go downhill, which is what she was doing. She was doing this gradually going downhill, up and down until we met her, and it was a little bit of a reverse out of that pathology pathway round onto the healing pathway, and now she's on the up. And never will this mare be in dire straits ever again, because Melanie now knows what she has to do to keep her feet in the way that Honey needs her feet, and also to keep the diet and management right so it doesn't affect her gut. But that manipulation of P3 is all down to the hoof capsule, and I hope you can see that P3 is moving with the hoof capsule. As the hoof capsule, the heels come down, as the hoof capsule gets tighter, you can see, because you can see on the left foot, it didn't move a lot, but the hoof capsule changed, where it grew in a tighter connection. Because remember, prior to that first x-ray, the heels were higher. On the right foot, you can see where the heels were still left high when the x-ray was done, and then you see it derotate as that hoof capsule changed. This isn't it isn't rocket science. This is just, and in Melanie's case, finding her mare's hard sole plane. It wasn't easy, but within 2 trims we were pretty much there with the heel height. You can see that. And then it was a case of there's still separation there, but she needs to grow that out. So that's still painful, and still was painful. Now it's not painful so much anymore, because she's got a really good connection coming in. So it's not tearing it apart anymore. It's growing down connected. And now she's just got to get rid of that last little bit. And then that foot is going to start stabilizing more. And away you go. What an absolute tremendous success. I'm so proud of Melanie. I cannot.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Tell you.
As you were talking, I made a couple of notes. When you mentioned, particularly in that amazing back picture when you did that video where the heels were coming down, and she was losing half of her foot.
Half of her foot. But
the emphasis was that half of the foot shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Oh no.
That's just mind-boggling, isn't it? And then when you take that half of the foot at the back of the foot away, if there was any toe that was on the ground, it can't be anymore, because it's gone up, because the angle's changed. So now we've got this long toe, or as we look at it from above, we've got this long toe, but in actual fact, there's not enough toe going down to touch the ground. So we're calling this, and this is perhaps for the people that aren't quite getting it right in their head, we're the long toe brigade. In actual fact, it looks like it's long, but it's not long enough, because the hoof capsule was in the wrong position. When it gets to the ground, that toe it'll have a longer dorsal wall, and then it will come back because the separation is growing out. So we don't want the long toe, but it's got to stay there till it hits the ground.
Oh my goodness, Gary. And it's very difficult to explain to people. And I think I've done a couple of rocket science lessons on it. I'll have to go back and have a look. But they just see a long toe, this long thing that's sticking out, and they're like, oh, get rid of it. And they don't realize that there's just not enough.
There's not enough.
It looks long and it's going out, but it's not long. It looks long. Oh, it looks long that way, but it's not long that way. So there wasn't enough, and there isn't for most horses when they're having their toes chopped. There wasn't enough vertically. And so just because you don't like the look of it and you decide to chop it off, you've now aided and abetted the shortening. It's already too short. It needs to get, so it's going out like this way, and it needs to go beyond that, create foot, which then puts the foot in the right angle, because we're not there yet. We're not there yet because she's got no toe on the ground. She's just got sole. So the foot's going to look different again when she's finally got sole on the ground, and that will then change that angle a little bit again. And it's just, I understand why people look at it and go, in fact, I saw only somebody had written on one of our posts today on an older post, and somebody had tagged somebody else, and this lady had come in and she said, oh, what do you think? And she said, oh, I don't like the way that they just leave the toe. And it's just, you don't understand what we're doing. If you think you can take that toe and all's going to be well with feet like this, which are very, very compromised, and P3 is compromised, you haven't grasped the purpose of why we're leaving it. You can't just take it because we've not got enough. And we're growing depth under P3 is what we're usually having to do. And in Melanie's case, there was such a lot of foot, but it wasn't even. You didn't have even depth under P3 and under the heel. You had a ton under the heel and less under P3, which is why when you're trimming, and then another reason why people get this wrong all the damn time, which is why horses end up penetrating, is because they take the whole damn lot down altogether instead of taking it down at an angle, which is, of course, the angle that should have been there from the sole, from the hard sole plane. But they lost that because they lost sight of it, because they ignored it. So then they go and bring it all down. And then the next thing you know, you've got P3 penetrating, and the world loses its head because it thinks it's sinking. If I go back to these, in fact, I'm going to go back to that, and because you could view this in a couple of different ways. Let's just say, let's just take this one for a moment. Let's put this over here so we've got it here. And let's just say that we did a silly thing, but we did something that we see people do all the time, scientists included and vets. Let's just say what we did was we lined this up with the block. All right. And then we did it. It looks like P3 has sunk down.
But it hasn't.
No, it hasn't, because now we've got the coronary band in two different places, because the coronary band is here. Let's put the shoulder of the coronary groove. We'll just put it there. And then when we go back, okay, the shoulder of the coronary groove is further up. It's here. So you can't line it up like that. You have to, let's see if I can go back. There you go. You have to line it up with where
the bones.
The bones, because the bones are going nowhere. They're not sinking through anything. You see? They're not sinking anywhere. This is all staying exactly in the same position that it should be. The back of the coronary band changes as the heels change. But just look how all of this is pushed out and squished and unhappy. And then you go like this. It's quite remarkable how the foot completely changes shape. And again, you got to ignore all of this. I'm sure the vet was itching to have that chopped off. But what we're trying to protect right now is we're trying to protect this. We're trying to protect this. If we had just gone straight down, if we had said to Melanie, okay, she's got a lot of foot, you just trim it down, that's where you would be with P3 in a really compromised position. And then made even worse, they chop the toe off.
What can get people into a bit of hot water and is when you have a healthy foot and it's a maintenance trim, it is pretty much that what you're doing. You're taking pretty much evenly all the way around.
Mm.
But that's on a healthy foot with everything in play. If you haven't got a healthy foot and everything isn't in play, you can't use that same scenario, because otherwise the pedal bone will come through the foot, and the reason for that is because of over trimming.
That's right. And if we trimmed like that at the very beginning, we'd have just, because her foot's got to grow, right? If we'd have just gone and trimmed like that, this would have stayed in the same position and this would have just been nearly exposed. And still, instead of doing that, this is what got removed, and we were trimming just the back. But when P3 goes back to its rightful position, look where we're at. Look at that. And this is the toe that they would remove.
Awesome job. I can't wait for about 4 or 5 months down the line when it's grown out.
Yeah, it's going to be
and then
amazing.
When that toe hits the ground, it will make a change again to be even better.
Well done, Melanie. I'm so thrilled for you. She says she's a sooty buckskin quarter horse mare. She's 22 this year. P.S. I didn't get your message yet, but cell surface isn't great. Okay, well, just go and have a look. I was just asking you if I could share it. The only mi amigo. Hello, everyone. Hello from Lanza. Me from Lanza. Emma Tyson says, yeah. It's me from Lanza. What is that, Jackie? Hello all, says Jackie. Emma Tyson. Multitasking, sitting in a car in Southeast UK, wrapped in coats, watching son's football training while listening. A change from a cold yard with cold people. Nikki done third trim now. Brilliant.
Good job.
That's ace. Well done. Sarah says, Lindsay, could you explain what the term broken back relates to? So that's when P3, when you have the line, when P2 and P3 are lined up, and broken back, I think people tend to think of it as in an MPA, but P3 does not need to be in a negative palmar angle to have a broken back, where P3 is slightly forward than where it should be and slightly articulated up on the distal interphalangeal joint. So it needs to be in line, but it isn't. It sort of goes like that. Instead of coming down in a line, it does that. And that's not very well explained with my finger, but that's what we call broken back. And you can have that with an MPA and without an MPA. And also it's very difficult at one moment in time to necessarily judge that, because she's standing oddly on the block. So she's standing further forward. If she was to relax and stand a little bit more backwards, that wouldn't look as bad as that at all. So we have to wait and see. But it's common when you haven't got a toe wall propping up as a pillar of support. Anyway, Sarah, that will be explained to you later on in the course. Viv Avery says, good morning to all. It's nice to be back with you after such a while. Miss you all. We miss you too, Viv. Louise says, oh my God, just worked out to view this on my TV.
I can't cope with that.
It's weird, isn't it? Hello.
It's weird.
Hello, Caroline. Are you all right then? Feeling good? How's Batman? She all right? She being Louise tonight and not Batman. Cornwall Cobb Club Adventures. I'm here late but high, off topic, but what do you use for mites? I think Thunder might have mites.
This is Toya, by the way.
Yes, I've worked out it was Toya. One of the most yeah, look, there she is. Hello. One of the most effective things you can use for mites is dog flea collars. The ones that are that you can buy from, usually, I don't know what you can buy in the States, but in the supermarket you can get these, and they're in like a spiral, and you cut them to length and you put them around the pastern. Not so tight that you can't get your fingers in. You need to be able to get 2 fingers in so that they can move their pastern, obviously, with their fetlock comes down and everything. You don't want it too tight, but that's a really effective way of getting rid of mites without filling your horse up with, because it's more topical, without, well, it's topical, without filling your horse up with injections with insecticides. Charlotte says, well done, Melanie. Pia says, happy tears for Melanie and Honey. Brilliant. Aston says, wow, Melanie and team, outstanding. Well done, Melanie, says Angela Moore. Marianne Caffrey, that's awesome, Melanie. It is. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. Fantastic, Melanie. I think she's walking on cloud 9. It's better than Christmas. Heather Swithenbanks is amazing. Right, yeah. Because nobody else was going to fix it.
No,
this mare wouldn't be with us. She would have gone because she was crippled, and she needed somebody to understand the feet. And like I said, we're not quite there yet, but we're pretty much. She's not got an awful lot to go now, but it'll be slow. That last little bit with that toe trying to get down to the ground. Oh God, when is it going to be down on the ground? It may not be down until March. It may even take as long as that to properly get down. February, March. Silver Lining says, my vet came out to do full vaccine. I was dreading her seeing the long toes. Well, she did make a comment, but when she saw how much of a healing angle was coming in, she was shocked.
Good.
Because and of course I showed you Melanie to Honey's foot almost down at the bottom, but Honey's foot's been having this healing angle growing down all the time. They're shocked because they've been told that P3 being not in the right position in the distal in the joint, in the hoof capsule around the distal interphalangeal joint, is caused because of that laminae failure. It isn't. It's actually causing the lamella failure.
Yes, it is.
It's not the other way around. It's not the lamella failure making P3 move. It's P3 moving that's causing the lamella failure. But P3 is moving not because it's losing its attachment, because the damn heels have been allowed to go up and the toe oftentimes is being chopped. And there's manipulation, which you can see when you derotate and you get rid of that manipulation and you go back to the horse's natural parameters. That is what you get. And now what we're seeing is quite a lot of people who joined the group at the beginning of the year are starting to get some fantastic results now already, because they've gone through the whole process, or they're getting through the process. There are still, I think I saw a post just yesterday or the day before when a lady came on and said, oh, well, what is this all about, this method? Because I see a lot of lame horses and long toes, without realizing that the majority of people that are posting at the moment, or a lot of the time, are people who have arrived at the Phoenix Way and are going through the process. So now we're able to show, because I'm sure Melanie's going to go up and she's going to do a post, aren't you, Melanie? And then we can put a link to this video as well. When you do that post, we'll put this link to the video in. Just go to YouTube, find the link, Melanie, and stuff that in your post as well. People are now going to see the results of this, because you couldn't see it at the beginning, and now it's a treadmill, isn't it? Because people are coming in, they're at the beginning of the journey, some people are at the middle of the journey, some people are getting towards the end of their journey. Sarah Lou, who was one of the first to start, she's pretty much at the end of her journey now. Well, reasonably, just nearly there, I think. It takes time for these feet to heal. And when they've not got a toe, it doesn't heal. The toe doesn't just come down in 9 months. It doesn't. It takes often well over a year. But it's understanding that when all these long toe people, they just leave the toe, as if we're just being, as if we're just being funny, and we're just sort of being, let's just be obtuse and let's just sort of leave the toe on the ground and just to be different. It's not that. It's not what we're doing. We are protecting P3, and most of the time there's not enough vertical height to cover P3 because it's been chopped. And you just chop it off again, you're just putting the horse into more problems. And the more you do that, the harder it is to do this lovely rehab that Melanie's been able to do.
What did the vets... as well, when you come more educated and you see the results, there is just nothing that would make you want to chop that toe off just to make it look nice.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Just because you've got a foot that looks more symmetrical and more aesthetically pleasing to the I was going to put a name in front of it, the human. Put the pre-human, you can put in whatever word you like. That does not create the biological healthy foot when it has been chopped and manipulated. What's got to happen is that biology has got to be allowed to get back to what nature needs it to be, and then it will look normal.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, they can't see what's going on in P3. They don't go around X-ray, and they don't take photographs in general, like we do every single visit when we've got these rehab cases. So they don't see, they can't see. So they're manipulating the hoof caps, or trying to make it look pretty. And in the meantime, really compromising P3. And there was a sorry case, a very, very sad and sorry case that was put up on the Phoenix group, which we took down as we're trying to help the owner, but it's not looking good, where the horse has had so much damage to their feet because the x-ray was done in shoes and the heels were looking high, and the vet obviously spoke about it, and the toe needed, and they were saying, oh, the toe needs to come off, and then the foot got scalped because that vertical height wasn't enough anyway, and then they just took more off because they're not following what the horse is showing them, and it's scary stuff. And so consequently, when they go, oh, HM, oh, those are the weirdos that leave the long toe. You're like, no, this is during rehab, and you have to respect it for so many reasons, not just because we're protecting P3, but we're trying to get that hoof capsule to stabilize. And you're not going to do that if you keep going and chopping it off. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if they shout it from the rooftops that yes, it's right. It's not, because no horse would do that to themselves. The horse would leave the toe in play until eventually it just broke off towards the end. Because the hoof knows it needs to try and stabilize itself and find equilibrium. Nikki says, what did the vet say about the difference between the x-rays? I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. Vet didn't want really to make any comments about the derotation, but it's hard to deny the difference. I figure another year and a few capsule growths, and I'm hoping it's even better. Oh, it will be. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Didn't say anything. She
didn't say anything because they don't understand.
Going to x-ray in a couple of months to see the difference. Don't x-ray too soon. Don't x-ray too soon. One, because your vet might have something to say about the look of the feet, and that's stressful, and it's not worth putting yourself through that. But equally, you want to be enough down the track, a good at least half a hoof growth rate and so you can really see the difference of what's happening with the connecting tissues, etc., which is absolutely fantastic. Sarah Woodvine says, amazing work, Melanie. So good to see the x-rays fade like that. Really helps us see the difference. You're welcome. Her bulbs are much more relaxed and the hoof isn't nearly as narrow. Get some photographs from the back of her standing up and put that up on the post as well. Fantastic. And of course they won't be, because as she starts engaging the back of that foot properly, because she's not up on a stilt anymore, she's not up on stilts, she's also reduced the wobble effect, increased the surface area, and allowed the back of the foot to just relax. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. Could we arrange a visit if you are en route or homebound to UK, please? Happy to pay. I really need help. Oh, hello, my lovely. Yes. I don't know when I'm Miss Michelle. I don't know when I'm going back. We'll talk. The farrier I used before came while I was at work and put the shoes on and told me I would cripple her by doing it myself, and she's more sound now than she's been in years.
I need to put a different thing. What was it? A friend of mine said.
It's to you, farrier.
To your friendly hoof care practice. Read between the lines.
Read between the lines. You see, no crystal ball, just part. And you know what's really quite awful about a lot of these situations? They're flipping well willing you to fail.
Yes.
They want you to fail. As long as P3 is relatively healthy, which Honey's was. Yes, she had a ski tip on both. Yes, she'd had some osteonecrosis, but it wasn't a huge amount. And you can see that between the two images through this year, she didn't lose any more because her heels were being put back in the right position, taking the pressure off P3. Had she not done that, then, and we'd left her the way she was, and she'd managed to, for whatever magical reason, got as far as she is today, and you re-x-rayed, you would see, especially on that right four, quite a bit of the tip of P3 likely to have been removed. So it's a shocking, worrying problem that we have, that people are not, that farriers and pros and hoof care professionals of all types, barefoot as well as farriers and vets, just don't see it. And hence the reason why so many horses are put to sleep constantly, and hence why we're constantly rehabbing these animals that have been put by man into those awful situations, not by just something that happened, or systemic laminitis didn't cause that. Didn't cause P3 to be in the wrong position. That was capsular rotation. And they know that capsular rotation exists, but they don't connect it to laminitis. If you want a really good description of what the difference is and why there's a problem, go and read my post from a couple of days ago where I talk about laminitis. I think let me just it's quite a long post, and not many people, I suppose, will read it, but you really need to read it. And I guess also not many people will understand it, particularly probably. There's our GTL workshop. Yes, we're going to Goresworth in June. Be there or be square. Here, old science versus new science. This is the same x-ray, right? This is the same x-ray of this mare. And I haven't put the after x-rays up because we're not treating her anymore, but she is 100% sound. This is old science, incurable, needs to be put to sleep. And this is new science, curable, and does not need to be put to sleep. But this is where they believe P3 is rotating of its own accord. And here is where P3 has, the hoof capsule has been shortened. Now, this is exactly what Gary was telling you earlier. This dorsal wall here isn't long enough. It's not like P3 could just snap back up. This isn't long enough. It's not how it works. It's not because they think P3's got sunk and rotated. It's grown like that because this has been ripping those laminae apart. And so the toe, in fact, P3 would have been like that down here. Obviously, it's separated. But this is not enough. There's not, you can see, and I can see them looking at it the other way, but when you understand it, if you look across from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here, here to, it's not there anymore. That's the problem. It's been removed so much, there's not enough left. Instead of thinking, oh, I imagine in my mind's eye P3 swinging down and rotating, it can't do that. There's still not enough covering the dorsal wall of P3. So when this heel gets lowered, the last thing you need to do is go anywhere near this area because this mare penetrated. Just a bit like Wex at Gawsworth was also in the same position. But because she still had a healthy P3, because this had happened rapidly over a period of 3 months with the farrier, that was the vet's farrier, mishandling these feet, she didn't have a lot of damage. She did go on to lose a tiny bit of the tip because that sometimes happens when they are penetrating, but barely anything, and she's sound now. So these heels come down, and this eventually heals and does exactly like it did with Melanie. P3 gets put into the right position. Then we have to wait for this to grow. You can't keep chopping it off and shortening that dorsal wall. You have to let it grow. And as it grows in a tighter connection, inevitably, because it's not being torn apart anymore by the heels. But this is why this post I write about it. How many flukes do you want? So Melanie, so Honey was a fluke. This horse here was a fluke. Wex was a fluke. Many of the other horses gone through the Phoenix Way and the horses that we've rehabbed over the many years, they're all flukes, are you? How many flukes do you want before you realize laminitis is curable? And then it goes on to talk about it and why, and the systemic driven laminitis and the difference between that and rotational laminitis, which I think, Gary, is a good word for it.
I think so. It's like Cuprinol, isn't it? It does exactly what it says on the tin.
And this is the
laminitis, yeah.
And this is the most crippling and deadly form of laminitis.
Oh, it is.
This is the one that's causing all the
misunderstood. Because it's so misunderstood. Yeah.
And it's conflated with this one, and it isn't. And within this one, they've identified sepsis laminitis. They've endocrinopathic laminitis, and then they've said supporting limb laminitis. And of course, all of those three, if there is P3 rotation, are not this at all. And that's why they've been failing with their research. They are that one, but they've missed it. And so consequently, they don't understand why P3 rotates sometimes, but not others, because not every hoof care professional is the same. Not even if we had 10 hoof care professionals that we went and from the same school, not ours, but if we line them all up together from different schools in the same school, but a farrier school or a school where they take toes and they do PPT, personal preference trim, they're all trimmed differently. They don't trim to the horse's natural parameters. So this is the most crippling and deadly form of laminitis, and it is completely man-made. It isn't caused by systemic driven failure. It's caused by misguided hoof care. And when P3 is artificially moved within the hoof capsule, it tears apart soft tissues, compromises joints, and creates catastrophic mechanical damage, which was what was happening to Honey. And the reality is, rotational laminitis is entirely preventable, and the equine world has confused this with systemic laminitis for far too long. And it's huge. It's so huge because it means that thousands of horses that have been labeled as incurable are actually victims of human error. That is shocking. It's a bloody tragedy, and it's still going on. And you know something? This form of laminitis, this rotational laminitis, could be eradicated overnight. Literally eradicated if standards were brought in and everybody went, oh my God, yeah. Oh, we've caused it. Oh, shit. But of course, that's not going to happen because nobody wants to put their hand up and say, oh, I was culpable. That was me. So the gadgets, the drugs and the gimmicks which generate funding and revenue that don't solve the problem, they'll still keep going. So the locking plate technology and the screws that screw into P3, all of those things, barking up the wrong tree, will carry on probably for the next decade. And it's shocking. And millions more horses will die because of it. Millions more will die. So go and read that if you want to find out a little bit more about it. But one day they'll listen. They need to start listening pretty darn quickly. What an amazing change, says Therese. Fantastic work, Melanie. Sarah says you should invite your old farrier around for a cup of tea and show him your great work, Melanie. Oh, Melanie, you have had to fight such negativity, but you have succeeded so well. She's just been amazing. It was a sledgehammer moment to me when I understood the angle I need to take the heels down. Before that, I took 2 straight and my horse was sore after every day. Because we've got to let it grow. And then, like Gary said, eventually, when everything stabilizes, you trim and balance normally. But you haven't got a balance point to balance to when you've taken the toe away. All of these little nuances that are all involved in it. Yeah. People don't understand it. Caroline says hi. She's watching the live between doing dinner. She's an amazing multitasker. Hello, Caroline. Viv says, loving this. We're so lucky. Well done to you. This mare is so lucky to have you. She is. Dawn says, I'm feeling sad seeing that post regarding racehorses being ridden at 1 year of age and they seem proud of it. Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't even get myself into that. And there are pieces of research that say that the piece of research that they were talking about on it as well that said, oh, but 2-year-olds, they do better to have movement. I was just sort of going, oh,
what
because
do you mean movement?
Well, because they put
hammered.
Right. No, exactly. But the trouble is, it's the version of being, well, hammered, ridden, or no movement at all. So they're not going from a natural perspective, which is just gentle, ordinary, normal movement and mucking around in the field and doing some running and all of those sorts of things. They're taking it from a perspective of being locked in the stable. So they need some exercise, right? Because if you don't have exercise, so exercise does them good. You're like, no shit, Sherlock. Really? Exercise does animals good? Well, hey, whoopee-doo-doo. So let them out of the bloody stable and let them be horses. Oh, no, we couldn't do that. They're all too expensive. They have to stay isolated and confined. And they only come out without, most of them without freedom to run around of their own accord. Because again, too expensive. And then are ridden. And they're not all ridden the same. And they're not all ridden by the same people. And they're not all ridden gently, and some of them are raced and some of them are raced badly, and it's just so many variables. The locking plates simply haven't fused yet. And when you go on a dissection clinic like we have, and you see the damage that can happen to those pelvises and the sacroiliac joint, and how that pelvis can get damaged and how the joints could get damaged, makes you think kind of twice. It does, but not many people are doing that. At work, sneaking the listen with you all. We are at about 5 months. Okay, so if you're pretty much halfway down, then you're getting there. Gary has got dad jokes. I had the privilege to watch a trim by a trimmer from one of those schools had a little ruler for the heels. Wow. Because they want it to be within a definite angle and a definite position. That's got to stop. It's got to damn well stop. The beauty about nature is all those amazing angles that you want to manipulate and try and mechanically achieve. The beauty about nature is it just does it itself.
Does it for you. All you got to do is give it a chance.
Give it a chance. Don't get in its way. Is that the... I don't know what that says. No shit, Sherlock. Love your honesty. That's true. No shit, Sherlock. Right. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's an hour and 20 minutes. For those of you who are in the UK who haven't come to see us yet, Goresworth. June the 6th to the 8th. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Get time off work. Get somebody to look after your animals. Come along. You will not regret it. You enjoy these lives? Let me tell you. It's like on steroids. You won't want to leave. It's like being in a bubble. It's like the first time I went to Glastonbury, I didn't want to go home because you're in a bubble. It's true. It's really hard at the end of the day. We're kicking everybody out, going, right, on Sunday, you can leave now. I just don't want to go. I want to stay here and listen to what you've got to say. It all makes sense when you finally see it properly. But yeah, so if you can get to Goresworth, do come. Book now, because that's why we've put it out early, to allow people to book. You can do a 50% deposit if you like, but that will be required 8 weeks before the actual off, I think. Something like 8-10 weeks, something like that. But come join us. It will be amazing. Come meet Bethan, meet Dan, meet Cyrus, meet the other kids, meet Rupert, Perty Roo. Come meet Perty Roo. And Heathcliff, and just come and absorb yourself in what will be one of the most enlightening weekends of your life. So come and see us. Pierre Toya, yes, dog collar. Yes, dog collar. Sorry, yes. Oh yes, 1986 Glasgow. Never came back really. I think I was there in 1986. I was there. Just think we were there together. Right then. I'll see you all. Well done for coming and tuning in, and we'll see you maybe not tomorrow, because we've got a group session with our 10-day challenges tomorrow. So we shall see you maybe
Friday. I should be traveling, so I'm not available Friday. So I'm on my way home.
It may be me, maybe nobody. He's on his way home. All right then, folks.